Hello, Foothill. I hope you had a great spring break, and I hope you also enjoyed Pajama Reading Day and got to listen to all of your favorite Foothill teachers reading some fabulous books. And now we're back for some yoga. Wanted to talk really briefly about one of the yamas, and remember that the yamas and the niyamas are a set of rules that the ancient yogis in India thousands of years ago came up with. We talked about ahimsa, which translates to nonviolence or non-harming, and I like to think of it in terms of kindness, of flipping it a little bit and focusing on being kind to others and also being kind to ourselves. Wanted to briefly touch on Aparigraha today, which means non grasping. And what we do when we grasp for things or we reach for things, we're focusing on the end result of something. Say, for instance, in a pose, like something challenging like crow. If we are still working on that and we're still trying to get all the way up off the ground, get our feet up off the ground and fully balance, um, and we're not able to do that, and we get really frustrated, and we just focus on getting that lift off rather than strengthening our arms, our legs, and all of the muscles in our bodies that allow us to go into that pose. And we want to flip that a little bit and focus on all of the work that goes into that, and let go of that idea of having the pose look or feel a certain way, and just let happen whatever you're able to do that day or that moment. And it also means flexibility. And flexibility is a very important concept right now, since none of us are doing what we really want to be able to do. We're not getting to go to school and see our friends. We're not necessarily going to the places we want to go, and we're not getting out as much as we want. So we have to be flexible and think about the process that's going on right now and how we can focus on what good can come out of this. And when we think about it in terms of yoga poses, when we work on something really challenging, what we're ultimately doing is not only getting to that pose and the final version of that pose, but we want to strengthen our muscles, we want to lengthen our muscles, and we want to feel more comfortable in that pose. So it's a process, and we want to let go of thinking about it in its perfect form and just thinking about it more as a journey. And we are ultimately doing good things for our bodies and our minds when we practice yoga. So, with that being said, let's get started on our practice. Let's come to a tabletop. And instead of doing cat cow today, let's do something else. So you can either have your toes tucked or untucked. Again, we're on our tabletops, and draw all your muscles into the midline, and that's isometrics, meaning we're drawing our muscles without actually moving them. So moving your arms, moving your legs without moving the actual arms and legs. So drawing those muscles in towards the midline, giving you balance, and then you lift your left arm straight out in front of you, continuing to draw in towards the midline. Lift and mine's going to go under my bed, your right leg straight out behind you. And if you're drawing those muscles in towards the center of your body, that's going to give you some balance. And then gently lower both and switch. So right arm is going to go straight out in front of you, opposite leg. So I'm just going to move forward here, give myself a little room, except that now I'm going into my closet. Right arm, left leg. I need a bigger room if I'm going to keep doing these yoga videos. And lower. We'll do one more on each side. Let's do left arm, right leg. Drawing muscles in towards the midline. Lower down and switch. Right arm, left leg. And let's do a really quick child's pose. As a reminder that this is always available to us when we need a little break. So, knees go wide towards the outer edges of your yoga mat. Bring your big toes so they're touching. Sit back on your heels. Stretch your arms out in front of you. Lower your forehead down to the mat. We'll take a few breaths here. Breathing in to your lungs, your back lungs. And let's come back up. Bring your knees back towards the midline. Knees are separate, a little few inches apart. Tuck your toes. Make sure your fingers are spread wide like starfish. And inhale up and back, downward facing dog. Let's walk our dogs a little bit by bending one knee at a time, then the other. You can do as much or as little as you want. You can move your hips, you can turn your head, whatever feels right in your body. Now let's go back into a downward dog. Lift your right leg up to the sky and bring your right foot forward in between your hands. Walk it up if you need to. Lower your left knee, untuck your toes. Draw those muscles in towards the midline. And inhale, arms up to the sky for Anjaneyasana or monkey lunge. And once you move that front foot forward and go into it a little deeper so that you feel it in the left hip flexor. Arms up. Maybe you want to add a back bend to it. And look up to the sky, lean back, but be careful. And let's add a thigh stretch to this. So bring your right elbow to your right knee and reach back with your left hand to grab your left foot. Draw your heel towards your left hip. You should feel that in your front thigh. And lower that back down, and let's do a twist. So bring that front foot back a couple inches. Lower your left hand down to the mat. Open up to the side. Right arm reaches up to the sky. And then bring that hand back. Tuck your left toes. Step back to a downward facing dog. Now we're going to lift left leg up to the sky. Bring left foot forward in between your hands. Walk it up if you need to. Lower that right knee. Untuck your toes or leave them tucked, whatever your preference is. Draw those muscles in towards the midline. Inhale, arms up to the sky. Anjaneyasana, monkey lunge on the other side. You can move that front foot forward, go deeper into it. Also adding a back bend slightly to it. And now we'll add that thigh stretch on the other side. So bring that front foot forward, backwards a little bit. Left elbow to left knee. Reaching back, right hand grabs right foot, draws that in towards your right hip. And lower that back down. Bring your right hand down to the mat. Open up to the left. Left arm reaches up to the sky. Lower left hand on the other side of your left foot, and make sure you tuck that right foot if you haven't already, and step back to a downward facing dog. And let's lift right leg up. Bring right foot forward in between your hands again. And now we're going to step the left foot forward to meet the right. Fingertips on the mat, bending your knees if you need to. We're going to do ragdoll. So grab onto opposite elbows, knees bent or straight, whatever feels right. And just hang. Let everything in your torso release. Your head, maybe shake your head, nod your head, but release everything so that everything is just melting towards the mat. Bring your hands to your hips, elbow tips pointed up to the sky. Lift your ears, push into your feet. Inhale, rise all the way up, arms up to the sky. Exhale, hands to your heart for Anjali Mudra. Let's do a wide-legged forward fold. So, hands at your hips, and you can either step or hop. Feet are parallel. You're going to be in a wide-legged stance. See how far you can go without feeling any pain. You want this to stretch, but you do not want this to hurt. And bring your hands to your hips. Make yourself nice and tall. So grow through the crown of your head. Back is nice and straight. And hinging at your hips, you're going to lean all the way forward. Bring your hands below your shoulders. If you can and you want to, you can even widen your stance. And for those of you who are super flexible, you can even lower your head down to the mat. That's just an option. For the rest of us, we'll just keep our hands here. You should feel this in your inner thighs. And then let's try walking your hands over to one side. I'm going to the left, and I'm going to hold on to my left ankle. And I'm going to walk my hands to the other side. I'm going to hold on to my right ankle. I'm going to come back to the center, and let's add a twist here. So walk your hands a little bit forward. Bring your right hand so that it's equidistant between your 2 feet. And then you're going to lift your left arm up. Open up to the left side. See if you can turn your torso like we do in triangle pose and look up at those left fingers. Then lower left hand, bring that so that it's between your 2 feet. Turn to the right, open up. Right arm reaches up to the sky, turning your torso to look up at those right fingers. And lower back down. And now walk your hands around so that they're framing your right foot. And then you want to step your right foot back so you're into a downward facing dog. Heels are making their way down towards the mat. Hips are up towards the sky. Fingers are spread wide like starfish, gripping the mat. Now you're going to lift your right leg up to the sky. And you are going to bring your right foot to just outside your right hand for lizard pose. You can see that. And if you are feeling good here, you can lower down to your forearms. But if that's too much and that hurts, then certainly stay up here on your hands, whatever works. And then step back to a downward dog. And we'll do it on the other side. Left leg reaches up. Left foot comes to just outside the left hand. Again, if you feel like you can manage it, come down to your forearms. Come back up. Back to downward facing dog. Now we're going to go into pigeon pose. So lift your right leg up and listen carefully because you're going to bring your right knee forward and you're going to rest your right knee to just behind your right wrist. Walk your foot up towards your left hand and then scoot your left leg straight back behind you. You want to flex your foot. So you want to push out towards with the ball of your foot and the heel, because that is going to take the pressure out of your knee. If you can, what you ultimately want to do in this pose, but I'm not there yet, and I don't know how many of you are, but you ultimately want to get your lower leg so that it's parallel to that short edge of your mat. But that's not always available. So we do the best we can. But the most important thing is to keep your foot flexed so this doesn't cause any pain in your knee. And if you can manage it, you may also lower down to your forearms, or maybe lower down to your forehead. Those are just options. If you want to stay here, that is perfectly okay. You can also, and this is an option, whether you want to do it or not is entirely your decision. You can place your right hand down on the mat, lift your left foot, reach back, grab your left foot with your left hand, and do another thigh stretch like we did before. Some of you, and this does not include me, but some of you may be able to even hook your foot in the crook of your elbow, but that is not available to all of us. And lower down, both hands are on the mat, fingers are spread wide like starfish, you're gripping the mat with your tiger paw. Tuck those left toes, and you're gonna lift up and go back to a downward facing dog. And then we're gonna lift the left leg. We're gonna do it again on the other side, bringing the left knee to behind the left wrist. Lower that down, stretch the right leg straight back behind you, and if you can, bring that left foot up a little bit, but not if it hurts. Flex your foot, pushing out through the ball and the heel of your foot so that you take any pressure out of your knee. Either stay up like this, come down to your forearms, or for the super bendy of you, you can come all the way down to your forehead. I'm going to come back up onto my left hand. I'm going to bend my right knee, reach back with my right hand, draw my heel. Ooh, and that one, interesting to note, is this hurts a little bit more. So my thigh muscles are not quite as loose on my right leg as on my left. You may notice one side is more difficult than the other. Maybe they're both the same. It's an interesting thing to note. And undo that. Bring your hands back to your mat, gripping with your tiger paw. Fingers are spread wide. And come back to a downward facing dog. Now let's come back down to our knees. Swing your feet around to the side. Sit down. I'm going to actually face you. And we'll start off with Baddha Konasana or butterfly pose to bring the soles of your feet together. You can flap your wings if you want, or you can just leave them here where they are. And you want to open up. We're strengthening, we're lengthening these inner thigh muscles. Sitting up nice and tall. Then actually, this pose just popped into my head because it was in the book I read to you for Pajama Reading Day. So let's come on to our knees. And I keep remembering these things. So before we do that, let's do another thing. Tuck your toes, and then you're going to sit back on your heels. And this may hurt, but it's one of those pains that's sort of a good thing. I know I tell you that yoga is not supposed to hurt, but we have these, what we call fascia, that runs along the soles of our feet. And that often gets inflamed. And maybe some of you or your parents have had something called plantar fasciitis. And this is a great way to stretch the fascia so that we're not prone to plantar fasciitis. So I like to do that every once in a while. So I think that may be enough for most of you. So Untuck your toes, sit back, give the soles of your feet a little breather. And then we're gonna sit back up, or stand up rather, on our knees. So maybe bring your knees about 2 fist distance apart. And I like to do this pose with my toes tucked. So maybe try that, and the next time if you do it and you're able, you can untuck. But this is the way that works for me. And you want to picture that if you had something wrapped around your ribs, that you were able to lift it up, bringing your shoulder blades together on your back and picturing your ribs just lifting up. You want to squeeze those shoulder blades together on your back, looking up at the ceiling. Reach back with one hand and find that heel. I am just going to graze it with my fingertips and then reach back with the other hand. I'm going to look up to the ceiling, try and lift my chest up towards the ceiling, and then slowly lower my head back behind me. You want to be careful that you don't just let your neck fly back. And to come out of this, you want to very carefully come up and then tuck your chin towards your chest. That should be the last thing that comes up. So how about we try that again? This, by the way, I forgot to mention, is camel pose or Ustrasana. So if you felt like that was not enough and you want to do this, you've got a little more stretch in you, you can untuck your toes, but whatever works. So shoulder blades hugging together on the back, lifting up your rib cage, reaching back. Maybe you do it one at a time, maybe you do it together, and then lift your chest. If you could like touch the ceiling with your chest, think about it that way. And then slowly lower your head back, squeezing your shoulder blades together. And then you want to gently come back, and then bring your chin back towards your chest. All right. Let's do, all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank on what I've said. Cow face, thank you. Okay, so I am going to bend my right knee. I'm going to walk that right foot over my left leg, and then I'm going to rest. I want my right knee to rest on top of my left. And then I'm going to take my left foot and I'm going to bring my left heel back towards my right hip so that one knee is stacked on top of the other. If you look, you may not be able to see, but there's a little bit of space between my knees. Ultimately, the full expression of this pose is with one knee resting right on top of the other. I'm not there yet. May not ever be there. So anyway, we're going to go ahead, lift right arm up to the sky, and then maybe pat yourself on the back, give yourself a nice little pat on the back, and then rest your hand in the middle of your back, the middle of your upper back. And remember, we're sitting up nice and tall. We're not slouched over like this. So sitting up nice and tall. And then your right arm is going to reach out. Thumb is facing towards the floor. Bring that arm around behind you so that the back of that right hand rests on your back. Maybe you're able to reach those left fingertips behind you and you can clasp the hands. If not, that's okay. You just bring that hand wherever it is able to rest. If you are feeling really bendy today, you can even try, while keeping your back nice and straight and strong, you can lean forward all the way over your knees. But maybe that's not accessible to you, so you give that a try. You see what works in your body, but you should feel that in your outer hips. All right, we're gonna try what I call our rock star switch. So I'm gonna walk you through it, and maybe it happens for you, maybe it doesn't, but we'll still get into it either way. So you're gonna bring your hands, both hands, to the mat, to the left of your body. And then you're going to pretend like your feet are stuck to the mat. They cannot lift up off the mat. They're going to move around and they're going to twist, but you can't pick them up off the mat. So keeping your hands on the mat, keeping your feet on the mat, you're going to lift your hips and you're going to walk your hands behind your body while you turn your feet, but you don't lift them. So walk your hands until you come all the way to the front, and then you sit back down. Maybe you were able to do that and your left knee is now on top of your right. But if not, we'll get there another way. So you're going to draw your left knee in towards your body, walk it over your right leg, take your right heel, bring it back to, did I do that right? I've already forgotten which way I started, but you want your opposite knee on top of the other knee that was on the top last time. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's what happens when you get old. You forget these things. All right. And now you're going to take your right arm, you're going to lift it up over, pat yourself on the back, rest your hand on the center of your upper back. Left arm reaches out, thumb down, bring that arm around, back of left arm rests on your back. Maybe you reach up and you can grasp those right fingers. Maybe not, whatever works. Maybe you can lean forward. And for me, I'm able to do this side a little more comfortably. And come back up. Unwind. We're going to go into bridge pose. We're going to do first we're all going to do bridge together. And then after that, those of you who want to do a full wheel, I'll walk you through that. You can do that. Otherwise, the rest of us are going to just do another bridge pose. So you're going to lie down on your mat. Knees are bent. Feet are parallel. So what you want to do is you want to reach down. Make sure you can just barely touch your heels with the fingertips. Toes pointed straight ahead. And you're going to make robot arms. So robot arms, your palms are facing each other, fingertips pointed up towards the sky. You're going to push into your feet. You're going to push into your elbows. You're going to lift your hips up. Then you're going to make snowball hands underneath your body. And you're going to shimmy yourself over to one side. Tuck that shoulder blade under, shimmy to the other. You want to get both your shoulder blades tucked under your body. And then you're going to push into your hands, push into your feet. Lift your hips up even higher. Maybe you want to play around with lifting up one leg. And if you do that, you need to make sure you lift the other leg. Maybe you just stay here for a minute and you keep pushing your hips up higher. When you're ready, go back to robot arms and slowly, slowly, slowly lower your hips down to the mat. All right, I'm going to sit up for a second. For those of you who want to move on and do full wheel or Urdhva Dhanurasana, I'm not going to do it today because I'm not warmed up enough and it's been a really long time. But so in bridge pose, we use robot arms. When you go into full wheel, you want to have your hands on either side of your ears with your fingertips pointing back towards your heels. So I'm going to demonstrate just the starting position here. So you can see that I have my elbows are pointed up to the sky. My knees are bent, toes pointed straight ahead. And if you are going into a wheel, you're going to push into your feet, push into your hands, and lift so that the top of your head is on the mat. And I'm going to come down here, but if you were to continue on, you would straighten your arms, straighten your legs, and lift yourself into a full wheel. When you come out of full wheel, it's really important that you tuck your chin to your chest before you lower yourself down. So for those going for wheel or Urdhva Dhanurasana, go. For those of you who are going into another bridge, let's go for it. So we're going to start with robot arms, pushing into elbows and feet, lift hips up, clasp hands underneath your body, shimmy those shoulder blades underneath your body, lift your hips up even higher. If you happen to have a yoga block in your house, or maybe you can just use your hands, but bring your hands under your hips and lift your hips up even higher. And this becomes a little bit more of a restorative pose, which is nice sometimes. And lower back down. Something I didn't point out and I just made a really bad example of. When you are in bridge pose, I looked towards the camera. You don't want to turn your head or neck. You want to really protect this part of your body. So when you're in wheel, when you're in bridge, you do not turn your head at all. So sorry, I made a really bad example of that. So make sure you don't do what I do on that. Okay, so now we're going to go back. We're going to make sure our knees are bent. We're now going to do cactus arms. So kind of like we went from robot arms, and then you're going to rest the backs of your hands on either side of your head. And then you're going to lower your knees to the right and turn your head to the left. You can rest your right hand on the top of your left knee. And then we'll switch. We'll do the twist on the other side. So knees come back up to center and move over to the left. Head comes to the right. You have the option to bring your left hand to your right knee. And we're going to straighten legs. Arms go long by your sides. Let go of all, actually before we go into that, let's do this. Let's make fists. So make strong arms. Flex the muscles in your legs and in your feet and in your face. Everything. Flex every single muscle and hold it, hold it, hold it. Close your eyes, hold everything and let it all go. Everything melts into the mat. Everything gets heavy. Release all the tension in your arms and in your legs and in your shoulders, even in your feet, so that your feet splay out to the side. Release that tension between your eyebrows. Make sure your shoulders are away from your ears, but they're not hunched up towards your ears. And let's lengthen our breath. So try and breathe in to a count of 4. Hold it for a second. And then exhale to a count of 4. Deep inhale. And deep exhale. Deep inhale. And deep exhale. While you're in Shavasana, think about how you can bring Aparigraha into your day, your week. Think about what you can let go of, what you can physically let go of. Maybe it's a good time while you're at home to go through your rooms, and maybe there's some things you don't need anymore, clothes that don't fit, toys that you don't play with anymore. Maybe it's time to let those go so that someone else can enjoy them. Maybe it's time to let go of some of our frustration about being home. We're not going to let, it's not realistic that we're going to let go of all of it. We're all going to be frustrated. This is something none of us have ever experienced. So we're going to be a little frustrated and maybe a little worried. But let's see how much of that we can let go of. And let's see how much flexibility we can bring into our lives, whether it's practicing some of our stretches and stretching our muscles, or maybe we can be more flexible in what we do each day. Maybe we do a little more playing with our siblings or with our parents. So get flexible in some of your ideas about how you want to spend your day. Now we'll start to come back into the room by wiggling fingers, wiggling toes. Draw your knees in towards your chest. Wrap your arms around your knees. Give yourself a big hug. Bring your right arm up overhead, rest it on the mat behind you. And then roll gently over to your right side using that right arm as a pillow. Use your left hand to push yourself up so that you're sitting down. And we will all join together in a seated position. We'll close out our class together. And if you haven't already, I know some of you are literal out there. So if you haven't already, open your eyes. And we're going to take a deep inhale together, arms up to the sky. Exhale, hands to heart for Anjali Mudra. Bring your hands to your forehead to remember kind thoughts, flexible thoughts. Hands to your mouth to remember kind words. Hands to your heart to remember kind actions. And namaste. All right, Foothill, thank you. And I will see you in another video. If you have any special requests, let your teachers know, and I would love to hear them. Thanks. Bye.